discussion on a couple. First one's Exhibit 705.7. Again, this one, the agreement begins on August 11th of this year, which is several weeks ago, through October 14th. This particular agreement, I know we've had some discussions in some of these in the past, but this agreement was signed on August 3rd, which should have been plenty of time to get it in front of a meeting on August 8th. So I don't know why this continues to come up. Looking for some clarity on that, and think maybe this should be pulled from consent agenda for a vote on its own.
You say which one you're referencing again, Matt? I didn't catch it.
705.7.
0.7. Okay, thank you. I don't remember one off the top of my head that was not within the time frame, so I apologize. I do not have that one off the top of my head. This is what I'm looking at. It's the agreement between August 11th and October 14th, so we are in that window for that agreement for that individual. I cannot speak to why it was not submitted or processed before for the last board meeting. I do not have an answer for that.
So
It has the stamp of processing on August 24th, so that's when it went through the system.
Does that mean maybe it wasn't filled right away, or is that?
It could be multiple things. It could be wasn't filled right away. It could be by the time it goes from the band instructors to the high school administration to our business office to the board documents, there's a lag time as it goes through that process as well. And it happened right during the middle of multiple technology challenges we were having too, so I don't know if that was a factor or not, but there's lots of factors that could come into play with that. I do not have the specific answer for that contract.
Well, I guess going forward, what are we supposed to be doing with these contracts? Where the work is being started before it's approved.
We have been working extremely hard to get that straightened out and have made progress in that area. When you have a system of well over 1,000 employees, not everything goes by the book as we'd like it to go.
I do understand that. I do,
We
but
continue to work with the staff too, and we've had a lot of turnover in staff over time too. And for 2 years during COVID, these things did not happen. So it's a matter of getting people back into routine of not just their instructional roles, but also the paperwork roles and management side of their jobs that come with it too. So we've tried to provide people grace on that while still holding people accountable moving forward as well.
and I understand this one is a fairly small amount of dollars, but the other exhibit that I want to talk about, it kind of leads into what the problem could potentially be. Exhibit 705.4 with till 360. I've got several questions on this contract. First, what is TIL and what are they going to be doing? There's almost no information in this contract on what this does. This is a fairly sizable contract. You know, it's $11,250 for 2 days of work. So I think I would appreciate a little bit of insight on what this is. I'm curious to know if any of the voting members know anything about TIL, if this has been used. I know I'm new.
Till was the keynote speaker at last year's welcome.
Okay.
His name is Joe Beckman. He was our district keynote speaker at last year's district-wide kickoff for our staff. His message is very much of acceptance, respect for all students and all staff. He did a phenomenal job with our staff. Was kicked off the school year last year. And it led to some conversations of several of our principals thought and our teachers thought he'd be great to bring to work with our students. So we had a lot of conversations last year to try to make that happen. And his schedule and our schedules couldn't quite align until late spring. And at that time, the decision was made that it's not the best time to bring in somebody like that, because really you want that message to be set early in the school year so they get the benefit of it throughout the year. So late in the year, made a decision to move it to this fall to have him come in. So what you're looking at in that contract is essentially 4 half-days in those buildings with students, not just with our staff. Providing assemblies, interaction with our student body on that message of his theme is look up, look away from your phone, engage with others, build relationships, support each other, those type of themes. I can't remember the rest of his message off the top of my head, but that was the basic theme of what he emphasizes and what he presents. And he was compared to our staff listening to me, they would much rather have him come back every year and provide, because his message was very, very powerful and a great way to kick off the district as well. So that's kind of the summary. I don't know, Nathan, if you have anything else to add to it from that agreement, but that's the basic schedule for those.
Everything
it
is
student engagement for this one, not just staff. So that's why the extensiveness of the contract's a little bit bigger than typically would see.
Yeah, and the description of services does outline the dates in which buildings and how many presentations and the times of all of the activities. So I think the contract is pretty clear on what is going to happen on those 2 days.
One of the lines in this contract is that a 50% non-refundable holding deposit must be received to confirm the client's date. Has that money been sent to Till?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So
I don't know if that's different than that, but I do not know off the top of my head. Typically, it's not until agreement is made, but I do not know that.
Until it's voted on, we wouldn't normally.
that's something that I would, because that's, again, with that last contract I was talking about, the $850, whatever that was, it's not, a lot. This possibly could be, and sending over $5,000 non-refundable to something that may not get voted on, and we're out that money. And now, I believe within the 30 days, which I think we're in, if it was decided that it didn't get voted on or approved, I believe this contract states that the rest of that money is due.
We can't be liable for, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but can't be accountable for a non-refundable deposit on a contract we haven't approved yet. Is that correct? So, I mean,
I agree
You know
with you.
what I
I
mean?
agree with you, but that's why I asked the question: has that money been paid? I think that's a pertinent question, and I would appreciate getting that information. Also, with this, it does show that it does have a presentation for the community, which I think is fantastic. I think we need to do that so the community knows what these speakers are doing, what they're bringing into the school. I think it's a great idea. However, I believe those community presentations should be before our students see it, so our parents know if they want their students involved in these sort of things. So if there's any way that could happen first. And I've received several comments on this, is why I'm bringing it up.
What is the concern? Let's just get right to it. What is the concern with this contract?
The concern is, well, before it was even brought to me from anyone, now that you say that he was a keynote speaker, I do recall that, but I went and looked it up to just to do some research to find out what it is. And there were some pretty alarming things right on their website.
such as what?
A specific quote from the founder of Till was, well, I guess I don't have it written verbatim, but parents should keep their opinions to themselves because it won't change the outcome.
I would need to know the context of that quote.
An exact
I'll
quote, I
find
guess.
you a link and I'll send it to you. But anytime social emotional learning is being brought in, parents want to know what does that really mean, because it seems to be a fuzzy term. I'll use that. On what does that really mean? It seems to be an all-encompassing term for lots of stuff that community members are nervous about. Just to be frank, they're nervous about any time that stuff is brought in. It also says something here which really kind of surprises me on this contract, that some students may want to talk to the speaker about personal issues after the event. Looking at the videos of this organization, they talk a lot about mental health. I, as a parent, don't want my student talking to somebody that I don't know about their mental health. Certainly not somebody that we're bringing into into the school for a assembly. There's a lot of red flags here that I think something like this needs to be, parents need to know what the content is so they feel comfortable with it. And that may be all it is this is really what they do. We're going to show you what they do. This is what they have to say. This is what they're going to bring to our students, and they can feel comfortable about it. Right now, there's a lot of parents that don't feel comfortable with this, and I think you'll see several opting out of sending their students to these types of assemblies without that information. I think we really need to do a better job of relaying and communicating to our community what these types of things are.
So
Certainly have our principals and staff send communications to families ahead of time about what the assembly is, what the focus will be, so they can make that choice as well. He is not a person coming in that we are not familiar with. We've seen him at conferences. We have had him with our staff. He's presented to hundreds of schools. So this is not anything secretive at all. So we can certainly have principals share out what the focus of it is and why we're bringing it in, and they're welcome to come to the, like you said, the community portion of it as well, which for some schools will be after the fact to understand, but that's logistically the way it works. And you have somebody come for 2 days, one night, when that night is structured. But
I hope you understand that I'm not saying this to be combative. I'm relaying information that was brought to me. We've all heard it, or most of us probably have heard him speak and know what it is. A lot of our community do not.
I think it's important to also think about the order of events. We can't, as schools, we can't expect the schools to share information or about an event that has not been approved. So my thought would be that we approve the contract, then the schools start sharing, we got approval, we're going to bring this speaker in, here when the event's going to happen. I wouldn't want to get an email that says, we may or may not be bringing in this speaker pending board approval. I mean, so this is like step one. The contract gets approved. Well, step one would have been the knowledge of bringing in the speaker, but you can't communicate out something that isn't approved to happen yet, is I guess where I'm coming from.
I agree that that is a fair point. Is there something in place that would happen? And what does that look like?
We definitely would.
Something that it wouldn't happen, though?
We would definitely
I'm just
communicate.
asking, I'm not assuming anything, I'm asking a question. Is there something in place for these types of events that gets sent? I don't know, I'm a parent, I don't know that I've seen one other than about a year ago of an assembly where we found out it was happening, and then after the fact, when people started questioning it a lot, then something got sent. I'm just trying to be proactive here and getting information out to our community so we can quash any suspicions, anything like that. I think it's important that we do that. And again,
Think about when Orchestra Iowa came in last spring, I got an email more than a week in advance letting me know that there was going to be an assembly and the orchestra was going to be there performing, I don't know, Little Mermaid or whatever it was. So I do think there is a process where these things are shared. This one has a community presentation, so that's definitely going to be shared in advance.
Can I ask something?
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, but you have the community presentation on there
Ma'am?
after two of the classes are already seen it.
Ma'am, audience cannot, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, please.
You're not listening to me.
Officer Dobbs, can you please ask her to leave?
For parents after all of the
I'm
classes
sorry, this is
have
under
already seen
law.
it.
You have to leave.
So you're claiming that the parents
You
can
have to
see it,
leave
but
now,
I
ma'am.
can't see it before my child.
You have to leave now. You've disrupted the meeting
Then
per
maybe
Iowa
this is
law.
answer questions. No, don't shush me.
Hey, Matt, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
This is not directly to you, I'm sorry. It's a response to what you just asked. Parents always have the right yet to, if they don't want their child to come to an event, right? Am I correct, Shannon?
Correct. Yep.
You can express that interest to the principal or whoever that is. You know, this is, I guess, you know, I still have a lot of respect for our leadership. I still have a lot of respect for the principals in the buildings and all the teachers in the buildings. And I really don't feel deep down inside those people are going to allow something to come in that they feel is going to be detrimental to all their students in their school. I realize there are going to be some students and or parents that really don't have a desire. You know, as a parent myself and a grandparent myself, I don't completely understand the issue, and I just feel like, you know, you still, as a child and as a parent and as a teacher, have to make the right decisions. And I have reason to believe that a lot of the students, albeit teachers, are going to make that decision. Back to the counseling piece at the end, you know, that's just, I think that's just allowing the students to be as comfortable as they want to be in the facility, as comfortable as they want to be in the setting. And it might bring them to their teacher, it might bring them to whatever, but they just want that opportunity. It's an outside learning environment that I think would be helpful for the school, myself, and for our students, albeit on the heels of what we've been through the last few years. I thought he gave a tremendous presentation, and no, he's not going to be for everybody. So the things that we're going to read, the comments we're going to read online, whatever that is, everybody's going to have an opinion whether they like something or didn't like it. And we have to be so careful because we can wordsmith anything. You know, when I say we, whoever posts some things can wordsmith anything. So back to, I think, what you said, Brett, a few minutes ago is, you know, we and I know we're upset because there needs to be some folks in the community want to be able to see it. But I don't know, like you said, time commitment, whether that's feasible at this point.
The other option that you mentioned, Barry, yes, people could always opt out of something if they're not comfortable. That's not a problem at all. The other piece is they can certainly reach out to building principal to get clarification ahead of time as far as what is the focus of this presentation. Do they have other additional information to provide? That happens frequently. That's certainly something that can be done in this situation or any, as far as what's actually being covered, whether that's a community presentation or additional information ahead of time. You know, that's very much welcomed.
So do I assume that this gentleman has a website and a person can probably even go on there and see their presentation or parts of what he has, or is that not as a
He's
whole?
active on
I'm
social
sure.
media. I believe there's a website. I don't know what he actually has on there as far as presentation, but I'm sure we can connect with him and get information to share with people if they have questions.
Answer to that to a little bit, I'm sorry to interrupt, but to answer to that a little bit, when I was doing some research, they have several, Till has their own YouTube videos out there, and that's what I was looking at, was their stuff. It wasn't someone else's trying to pigeonhole stuff, it was their stuff. I went to their website to look up the information. And a little bit to your point, Britt, of, you know, when we brought Orchestra Iowa in, this is different. We're not talking about a orchestra coming in to play music. We're talking about people who focus a lot on mental health.
I was just referencing the process of communicating those events,
Right.
not necessarily comparing the two.
Right, but on those events, when Orchestra Iowa comes in, we don't say, this is the music they're going to play. We all know what music they're going to play. Parents don't know what mental health they're going to be talking about to their young children. It is an apple-oranges type of thing, and I think that's where I'm hoping we can do better to close that gap in the community. I think there's a big opportunity in these types of things to do that.
One thing I do want to add is that I do understand that there's a difference between music education and mental health education, but ISB standards still identify that we as a school board and we as an educational body have a responsibility to provide mental well-being services to our students. We have standards that we have set as a board that say that we are going to prioritize mental health as a district and as a board, and that is one of the priorities that we've set for this year as a board jointly. And we have, as a district, said that that's one of our priorities. We just set forth to IASB that one of the things that we want to focus on this coming year as a district is to advocate for mental health. And so while I recognize that there are differences in how people view the means to the end, I don't think that we can side skirt the fact that we are addressing mental health within our schools, because mentally well students are able to achieve high academic standards. Kids who are struggling with their mental health aren't as able to achieve high academics. And we know that's as fact. And so I think part of what we need to be able to get to a point of understanding within the community is that we're not doing this, any of these things in a way that's trying to cause harm. We're bringing things in that we believe and have vetted out, just like Shannon talked about. We're bringing in known resources that are trusted, that we know will provide great resources for the students in our district. And we're providing information to the families that they can use to determine if they feel uncomfortable with that resource. They can choose to not participate, just like they could choose to not participate in a sexual education class or in a music education class or anything else in the district that they are uncomfortable with. But I think we can't let that detract us from recognizing that this is one of our set priorities and we're moving forward on it.
I won't say that I disagree with any of that, but also when we're talking about bringing mental health, these types of things into our schools, you know, who's bringing them in? The CEO, or the two founders of TIL, one is a teacher and one is a principal. I don't know where the credentials of them speaking on large groups of students' mental health comes from. It's a real concern. Granted, teachers and principals are in the midst of that all of the time, but I don't know that that makes them experts on mental health. Those are my concerns. I'm just bringing the concerns that the community has brought to me.
The way
Have you
I address
reached
that
out
piece
at
is,
all?
I'm sorry?
Have you reached out at all? I imagine there's like a website or something like that, but I bet that they would, you know, I bet that they would communicate with you about like your specific concerns and about the concerns that you've heard from the community, so that you could, you know, get a better picture of things and you know, either have your concerns allayed or have your concerns, you know what I mean, supported by whatever you heard, and then you could pass along that information. I just wonder if you've reached out to
I
them at
haven't
all.
yet. You know, I seen this, you know, late Saturday night for the first time, and I haven't had a chance to reach out. That's something I certainly can do, and I will. I'll send an email to see, you know, address those concerns and see what they get back to me on. But that's...
the one thing I would add to your comment there, Matt, is he's not coming in as a therapist providing therapy to schools. He's coming in providing a powerful message of acceptance, inclusion, respect. He's not pretending to be what he's not. So when you mentioned his background, you're right, he's not coming as a mental health expert. He's coming as somebody that has experiences he can share and provide inspiration for kids and connection with kids that way. So this is not a group therapy for 600 kids at our middle schools to have. It's opportunity to connect with somebody that has their own unique experiences and their message of respect towards each other. So it's the inspirational aspect of it more than it is a clinical psychiatrist or a mental health professional coming in. This is very middle school level appropriate content. And as far as the engagement aspect of it as well, it's a very engaging, very high level, very high energy, very interesting presentation that he will provide with kids as well. Back to your initial point of making parents aware, absolutely. We can certainly make sure that's a priority for buildings between now and the days when he's coming, and we encourage people to have questions to connect with building principals or with Joe and his team as well, so we can alleviate those questions as best we can. And just about the evening event, that evening event is not for parents, wasn't intended for parents necessarily as a see this to determine if you want your child to be part of the assembly. It's intended to give the parents the same message so they can have the same language and conversation with their kids as well that day and then going forward as well. So it's the intent of that was not for a preview to decide whether they want to or not. We can provide that information for them ahead of time. It is really intended to help educate all the community and all the parents as well, so they can have, when the kids come home and talk about something he says, they can understand where they're coming from and what that conversation can be enhanced, hopefully, at the dinner table.
Just bottom line, we need to communicate to the parents what's happening and let them make the choice.
Absolutely.
Straightforward as we can be.
We have a motion on the table and a second. Any further discussion?
And, yeah, I would like to make a motion to pull 7057.
There is
A
already,
motion to amend the
you would have to
motion.
request that of Melissa, who has the current motion sitting on the floor, to amend her motion.
I would like to amend the motion, amend the motion to remove 7057 and 7054 for a separate vote.
I'd like to keep it as stands for now.
So we have a current motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.